Oh man, I wish that I was starting this video 2 minutes ago because I just on the hillside up there. From the hillside, I heard the weirdest noise. I have no idea what animal it was. It was kind of. I'm not gonna embarrass myself. I don't know what the heck it was. Didn't sound like a fox. Didn't sound like a cat. Didn't sound like a dying rabbit. It's just the weirdest thing. So if I hear it again, I'm going to shut up and let you figure it out. That's the puzzle for today. So here I am outside in front of the Betsy Ross truck, which has no Chevy markings on it except the bow tie that is missing the little gold insert on the front. I might change it with something else. I like to shock and amuse people. I'm thinking about this little kid that was a visitor to the preserve last summer. And I have to say, man, I could not be a preschool teacher. I couldn't. They would just drive me nuts. Little kids, I'm sorry to say, they kind of irritate me, except, my grandkids and my own kids when they were little. Not in the little kids hanging around them or whatever. I know that's bad to say, but they are. They bug the crap out of me, and they smell funny. But I had this one kid. I mean, he asked a question, and it's like beyond the pale. Answered the question. I forgot what it was. Silly one. I don't know. Why do trees have leaves? It's how they feed. It's how they get their energy from the sun. Photosynthesis. Plus, it gives us something to rake in the fall, because we all love doing that. Why? Because and it was that textbook. Why? And so there I was. No exaggeration, more than 5 minutes, maybe more than 10. I don't want to go beyond 10, commit to that, but it was literally why? And his mom was standing right there, not stopping him, not putting the brakes on this irritating little child. Why? I forgot what I said. To like end that. Maybe I just walked away because I was done with it. Really? Why? And of course, her little Johnny is the smartest kid in the world, so everyone owes it to him to answer like a million questions. Whatever. But I find it ironic, that I'm constantly asking myself that. I'm old now. I keep saying that, 62. I know that there's people that are beyond that here, but we're in the same boat that we have traveled a certain period along this journey we call life. And when you reach a certain age, you start seeing the destination. I mean, let's be honest here. When we were young, we were going to live forever, and now we're taking our collective wisdom and we see that things are finite. And I've always felt, even when I was in my 20s, that hopefully when I reach this point, I will have gained enough wisdom and life experience to not worry about it. And my dad was a great believer in that. He would always say, on my mom's birthday, well, Louise, you're one more year closer to the box. There was no fear of the ultimate ending there on his part. And, that's what I base my life upon. It's like, whatever, it's, you're born, you live, you die, and hopefully there's something beyond that. If there isn't, you're not going to know, because it's like turning off a light switch. So don't worry about it. But as I grow older, I start answering the question, why? And one that you might be asking, it's John J. Riggs Archery. It's a bow channel, and I go off on medicinal plants, which makes sense. It's a group project here. Primitive archery and knowing your plants, or other survival skills, being self-reliant. That makes sense. But as I'm marching along this journey of life, I am definitely one that's like shiny object. And you've seen it before. My beach cruisers, my motorized bicycle, my wheelbarrows, model airplanes, musical instruments. I go off in these jigs. I'm very single-minded. When I get into something, That's all there is. And that benefits me in having that concentration and that practiced patience of not just going for the destination, but the journey. It's a microcosm of our experience here in this world. And music relates to primitive bows because, an essay by John Riggs, you have to develop patience. You have to develop that ability to enjoy each step that is maybe far, far beyond a destination. Whether or not it's pounding tendons to get sinew, preparing each one of those fibers, after you carefully prepared the bow, maybe making fancy tips. It's detail work. Just like music, practicing a phrase over and over and over and over again and enjoying that. Trying to get the best tone for that phrase or clean picking or whatever. It's the same thing. It's at the root when I ask, why am I doing this? It's ability just to enjoy what you are doing at that time, a little part, knowing, hopefully, that at the end, you're going to have something nice. But you know what? We never stop. We go on to something else. Because whether we realize it or not, we enjoy that journey. We enjoy looking ahead. You want something, and so you dream about it. It's like a vacation. A great part of that vacation is dreaming about it. You get your tackle box all together. You maybe buy a new rod or a new reel, and you sit in your living room when the wife and nobody else is watching and practice casting it or dreaming about that fish you're going to catch. And then you go on your vacation, you enjoy it, hopefully. I hope you enjoy your vacation, and then boom, it's over, and then you have the memories of it. It's not just about that period of time. Music and bows also have to do with the provenance. Now, some people they're just a tool. I don't care what my bow looks like. It's just a tool. That's fine. You get this bow, you don't like to look at it. It's just a raw tool. It doesn't matter where it came from. If it works, it's all right, because then you go out, you hunt, you get something, you can eat it, you can survive another day. But others like us, and I'm preaching to the choir, why are you on a primitive archery site, and especially mine where I'm like shiny object and you go off on a tangent? It has nothing to do with anything, but it does. People into primitive archery definitely like to look at the past. We like to ask, who are we and what is our relation to this world? What is it about this, whether or not it's a simple D bow or the most complex horn bow, what is it about this thing that really draws us to it? And it's history of it. Who we are and what we are, how we relate to the world, and how we use this as a tool, which takes an incredible amount of practice compared to a compound bow. Sorry, if you're just a compound bow archer, you have to be honest with yourself. You could take just somebody that's never touched any piece of archery equipment, give them a compound bow, provided they are steady and they have some breath control. And within an hour, using a peep sight, and the pins, within 5 minutes, you're able to hit something accurately 25 yards. I'm being generous here. Really, if you're steady and you have some control over your physicality, you could probably hit something pretty accurately at 50 yards with a compound bow after an hour or two of practice. Try that with a primitive bow. Ain't gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. So we are in tune with this, just musically wise. Okay, now let's jump sideways here. If you've been watching the past couple days, my intent on getting a violin with some provenance, with some history, with a name of a person that actually made this and not cranked out in a Chinese factory. And I say Chinese factory because that's where the bulk of instruments are made now. Or close to it. Have to have that caveat there. I spent $79. Um, the company's name is Cecilio, and they produce these things called Mendini violins. Forget which one I have. $79. You know, and I was looking at it this morning. It's a tool. It makes sounds to my ear, because I've been spoiled. It makes kind of unpleasant sounds, but it makes enough of a musical impact that you can learn on it. From a purely technical standpoint, they did a pretty good job. I mean, for a $79 violin, it's done pretty well. The seams are precise. The overhang on the edges of the violin are precise. It's, you know, good construction. The top and the bottom plates, or the table and the bottom plate, you know, the side you look at, the violin shape thing, they're not carved. They're just pressed. And I can tell that because they don't have the fluting along the edges. If you look at a violin that was actually made by a human, it's fluted around the edge. It's like this little channel that goes around it. And then you've got the purfling, which the black lines that go around the edges of them, which reinforce the edges on a carved violin. They're pretty, but they also are a reinforcement. This one, pressed, whatever. You're not going to get anybody to carve a $79 violin. And the purfling, the black lines are, I believe, inked on. They're not really, you know, channels and stuff put in there. Well, $79 price point. The nut, near where the tuning pegs are, the strings go over the nut and then go along the fingerboard. Done pretty well. The slots could be a little deeper because the action's a little high up there near the end. The bridge is correct. The flat side is towards the tailpiece, and then that chamfered side is towards the peg head. Good job. It's fitted well. It's got a good shape. It's a little high, but $79. You know, it's not a bad fiddle. And people are able to buy this tool from some unnamed big factory in China. They got a violin, whatever, it works. You can make music on it. But it's important to me that the thing is more than a tool, just like our bows. You know, so I've been looking for, oh, no, I'm not going to say this. I don't want to call out a big instrument shop. A great instrument shop, so I'm not going to say anything that might be taken derogatory. I'm a valued, loyal customer of them. But it's important to me that I get an older violin that was made by a person. And so I've been shopping on eBay. And I bid. I might get in trouble. I bid early, just whatever. I wanted to bid it up and not really win it. I want the person selling it to get their value. So 4 days or 5 days, whatever, before the auction is up, I put a pretty high bid on it, not counting on getting it, because I want that person to get money and I want a bidding war to get started. If I don't get it, whatever. It was at Richard Garris, a violin made in Bohemia, an old German one. A good one, not made in a factory, because even back in the 1800s and early 1900s, you could get a hand bench made. That means that it was a maker and not a factory. Or, just like today, you want a cheaper violin. There were a lot of violin factories in Bohemia at that point. Saxony, northern portion, like along the Czech border. So the choices were there 100 years ago, just like they are now. And going into the early 1800s, the same deal. There were violin makers, and then people would buy a license to stamp their name on it for the factory. But there were little differences, so you could actually tell the real one from the false one. Now, I wound up buying. I did. I pulled the trigger on it. $495, which is pretty light for a good instrument. One made in Mirecourt, France. Now, Mirecourt now is a commune, an artist commune, noted for making violins, musical instruments, and bows. A big center of operation in France for making bows. I bought one made by a fellow, and I know with 99% certainty it was actually this guy making it instead of them licensing their name to Bohemia and making them in Germany with kind of their name on it. And go to Reverb, go to other places, go to Google this guy's name, and you can see it if you can see the pictures. You will learn how to tell whether or not it's really made by this guy or a factory. His name is Dominique Césard, and he was a relative of Francois Césard, which means, I think, salt cellar in German. Violin makers in Mirecourt, and then in Paris, violins. Dominique, I love knowing who this guy was and when he was born in 1801. Died in 1875. So, 74 years back in the 1800s. Pretty good lifespan. This violin, I don't know when it was made. It was made sometime after he started and before he died. 1850, 1860. So it's a really cool old antique. It has some issues. There were cracks that were fixed. There was damage to the peg head, which was repaired. But for an old instrument, not like a new one. If I had a violin made in 2007, like my Chinese-made thing, and it had a crack and it was repaired, it would probably lose a lot of value. But old ones, hey, 150 years old, 200 years old, 300 years old, you're going to find one that's not damaged. And if you do, big bucks. But Césard would mark his violins César, and they would be made in Mirecourt or Paris, whereas the other ones would be made in Germany. The ones that were licensed, the ones made in factories with his name on it, which aren't regarded as really great instruments, would literally have a stamp on the back. You just take the violin, turn it around, and up near where the neck is, where the heel of the neck is, it would be stamped Césard with a D. He marked his just César, but the other ones had a D on it, and they were stamped on the back. You learn something. But yeah, I'm hopefully gonna really enjoy it. It's gonna be nice to have a French violin. And as a side note, I appreciate this too. Mirecourt, France, Center of Instrument Building. It was very unlikely that if you get a violin made in Mirecourt, it wouldn't have a fake label on it. Like so many violins, I would never buy one made in Germany in the early 1900s that had Antonio Stradivari and then a fake number in it, because you have no idea who made it. I want to know who made it. But in Mirecourt, France, just a little bit of trivia, there were very few factories, there were very few fake labels put on it, because they have pride. They had pride in their instruments, so they wouldn't make one and then put somebody else's name in it, like Giuseppe Guarneri or Antonio Stradivari or anyone else, or not to get too in-depth in this, but yeah, so I'm pretty happy about this. And it's an investment. You get an old violin like that, if it's in good condition, you don't pay a lot of money for it. It's my idea of an IRA. Plus you don't make music with an IRA. The violin isn't going to lose any money. Bought something, unlike a modern instrument, if it was made last week, you buy it, especially in a factory setting, Chinese factory, you're going to lose half the value right away. It's like buying a car. Well, that is it. Packing up. Going to go to the old house today. It's pretty much a livable house now. The living room set up, the dining room, the bedrooms. Now it's just painting and details. Lovely, lovely place. That is all. Thank you for listening, and I'm sure that Jean-Paul in Quebec is going to kind of especially enjoy this, because it's a French violin made to play Cajun music.